What's up YouTube, it's I with the Bow, and today we have the version 2.8 balance changes. These are the balance changes promised in the roadmap 2020. This balance change is coming out in November, and it also shows that TEPPEN is listening to the community, because not only do we have all of the balance changes, but we also have what those pet balance changes are. And before, it would used to be where they would tease us with what cards would be balance changed but not tell us what they were. So this is a good sign. This is showing that the community is being heard and that TEPPEN will constantly improve. The first thing I noticed about all of these balance changes, looking into them, is that they all reflect of the meta of last month and forward that happened, but they definitely do not reflect the current meta of this month. So we'll be seeing a lot of cards in this balance change of cards that existed in previous metas. They still exist now, but not as much. So let's take a look at the first card. Here we got Cody. Cody is a 3 MP, 3 attack, 3 HP, memory 4, deals 4 damage split amongst all enemy units. Now it's changed to where it only deals 3 damage. So the damage nerf is not too bad for red. In fact, red already has a lot of ways to deal out damage. So while it is a balance, because 4 damage is quite a bit, it doesn't exactly solve the problem, because red will just keep doing the same thing. They'll probably find even stronger cards. Even right now, growth is way better than Cody. You don't see Cody at all. And that's because growth is dealing even more damage. So this nerf doesn't really apply to the meta, although I do think that it makes sense. Because in future metas, in case that humans ever got more strong or action decks got stronger, Cody would definitely see play in those decks. But as of right now, Cody's not seeing a lot of play, and it doesn't really change up a whole lot for red. Targeting this card, it doesn't make sense, because red will always just be that color where it has on-play damage. I know a lot of players always talk about how on-play damage for red is very powerful, and it is. It's a unreactable mechanic for red, but red actually doesn't have a whole lot else going on for them, because red is that one color that all of their answers are just deal damage, and dealing damage will not get you out of every situation. So in that respect, this balance change to me doesn't make sense, but I see why they did it. Next up, we got Shiva, and this card is very similar to Cody. 3 MP, 3 attack, 3 HP. When placed on the field, if a friendly human with MP cost of 5 or more is on the field, deal 4 damage split. Now it's 3 damage split, but same everything. And again, just the same deal like I said about Cody. Next up, we have Vrax. This was a really highly requested nerf from the community. We finally have it, and before it was a 5 MP, 2 attack, 5 HP, flight, rush, agility unit. This always kept dealing constant chip damage, and even opening it early game would end a lot of games quick. A lot of players could not deal with this card. But now it's a 4 MP, 2 attack, 3 HP, flight, agility with no rush. So the survivability of this card has definitely dwindled down low. I think that the attack damage output is still there, and it is still playable. It's not probably the first card you'll play, opening hand, because of how low the HP is. But I could still see this being played in decks where you can increase the HP of your units or increase the survivability of your units. So this card does not, make it to where it's not playable anymore. It just means that it's balanced now, and you kind of have to put a little bit more resources to make it its former glory. Next up, we have Agent's Memories. This card was a 2 MP action, deals 2 damage to an enemy hero or enemy unit. At 7 memory, it dealt 7 instead. This was very powerful because it would always take out 7 HP from an enemy player, and they wouldn't even see it coming. Losing to this card from the left field always felt bad. So I see why that this is seeing a nerf. the new change is it still deals 2 damage on base, but instead of memory 7, it's memory 4. So it activates a lot quicker, and then the damage has been nerfed from 7 to 5. This can kind of be seen as a buff as well, because it means that you can use the damage scale earlier, but it also means that late game you won't be able to knock out your opponent. I think that this buff slash nerf makes a whole lot of sense. I don't think that the early 5 damage will affect a whole lot. I think it's still balanced. I think that players will be able to keep playing TEPPEN against this build. So the nerf, I see it. It didn't really make a whole huge impact into me, but I see it. Next up we have Feline. It's actually a basic card, and it is a 3 MP unit, 1 attack, 5 HP, tribe, beast, and monster. It was a dual tribe unit. Has MP boost 20, and when played, if there are at least 3 different types of tribes among friendly units, gain shield. So its new text is now it's only a beast instead of, beast monster, and it changed to where there only needs to be 2 different types of tribes to gain that shield. So this is more of a direct nerf to Nero, the unit that usually becomes a 4 MP, 4/8 spillover unit. Now, if you have this Feline, it'll become a 3/7 instead. So I like the nerf that they did. I'm not sure if it had to be this Feline to get at the Nero, but I understand why they did it. And this card does not see less play. In fact, it is kind of stronger. You can kind of see this as a buff because the tribe requirement is less. So now if you have a monster on the field, you can throw Feline and Feline will get that shield. Before, you wouldn't be able to do that, which makes a lot of sense. Feline's for Monster Hunter, and having a monster there will give Feline the shield. So it's a nerf to that Nero. I think this cat is still playable. Let's take a look at the next card. Next up we have Shara Ishvalda. This is a really hated card. It's an 8 MP unit with 2 attack, 10 HP, has spillover, and after taking damage and surviving, gain +1 attack and shield. Its new change is it lost 2 HP. So they gave it the Hoitzel treatment to where they just lowered the health, and now it is a 8 HP unit. And I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense, because green, they have the same answers to this card, which is seals and evasive actions. And then next up you also have black, which just destroys this card with destroy abilities. You have purple with bounces or halts, and then red is really the only color that struggles with this card. So the nerf to Shara is mostly for red, because it means that there's less health for red to deal with. But it's still a very increasingly difficult card to deal with, even with this nerf. So this nerf, in my eyes, didn't really do a whole lot. And I'm sure that the red players are not really thanking, for this change. But I like that they are showing concern for this card. They know that, something's wrong with it. I just don't think that this was the direction to go for. Next up we have Rainey Turtloid. This is a 4 MP, 1 attack, 10 HP unit, and on Ascend it gains +3 attack and spillover. Very powerful card. Now it's changed to where it's 3 HP less, and I think that 3 HP less does not make it unplayable. In fact, I would still play this card because of its stats. It's just not overly broken. It's balanced. Even on just playing this as a 4 MP 1/7, it's a good spot, because it means that you can still use dive attack on it to make it stronger, but also you have the option to ascend with it. So it gives you that space in your deck, a lot more purpose. Next up we have Unbreakable Bond. This is a 5 MP action where it copies a friendly green unit and places it onto the field. And then now they just made it 2 MP more. I think this is a direct balance change to how Unbreakable Bond was being abused with Shara. So now they're making it more expensive for 3 Shara decks, decks that only play Shara, to pay more MP give more breathing room for the enemy player so that they can counter whatever Shara is doing, and that the Shara player can't just make really cheap copies. But this also reduces the playability of this card for other green decks. So Shara literally ruined, the fun for everybody. But this is still a Shara card. I think Shara can still play it. I don't think it's dead. But it reduced the amount of accessibility for other decks, and you'll only really see it in Shara. Next up we have Trish. This is a Resonate unit at 4 MP, 1 attack, 6 health, and gains +1/+1 on Resonate. Its new change is it has 2 less health. It has Resonate if this attack is 3 or lower, gain +1/+1. So realistically, the stats on this card can only ever go up to a 4/8. That's not bad for stats on a unit. You still have to work for it. And I think that, in green you can already get a 4/8 for 4 MP. So I don't really see a whole lot of value here because you can't scale above the 4/8. And in addition, the HP is now reduced to 4, so this means that, mono red can deal with Trish very easily, very fast. And it makes it balanced. I will admit that Resonate is a very powerful ability, powerful mechanic, and that this card will always snowball and just turn heads. I like the balance change. I think it was well needed, but definitely now this card is weaker. Next up we have C Viper. This was a 4 MP unit with 2 attack, 4 HP on Resonate, gain 2 HP in combo. Now it is a unit with higher HP, so it has 6 HP, and it doesn't have Resonate anymore. It actually only gains combo when it's played, and it's only effective for 1 attack. So the playability of this card definitely went down from very playable to pretty much 0. There's not a whole lot you can do with this card. Purple has always been the color where you have difficulty buffing the units, whether it's like HP gain, attack gain. So I don't see this card being playable anymore. In fact, I wish they kind of kept the Resonate for combo, because now that it only gets combo when it's played, it makes it very untimely. It's very awkward to play. So even if you do have the damage buffs, the timing's just not there. So unfortunately, we'll have to kiss C Viper goodbye again, but the art's still pretty sick. Next up we have Adjeel. I'm sure a lot of players are really excited to see this get nerfed. This is a 3 MP unit with 2 attack, 5 HP, Ascension, gain +1 attack, and Revenge +2/+4. So now the change is where you can only revenge once. The Ascension stats is lower. It's actually half. So you won't be seeing 5/9 Adjeels anymore. You won't also see Adjeels going infinite on themselves, because in the previous version, the revenge was infinite. If you had a Sigma or if you had an Adjeel, you can keep playing the doggo over and over again. And it gave black the ability to not worry about losing cards in their deck, because you could just play Adjeel all the time. I will say that this nerf doesn't make it unplayable. I think this card is still very playable in Raging Demon. In all of my Raging Demon games, I only realistically ever used, for the games that I won from most of them, I only used them an additional time after like the first death. So what I'm trying to say is, after my Adjeel died, after I Raging Demon them, I would use them for another Raging Demon, but never really more than that afterwards. But that doesn't take away the fact that this card was very powerful in being able to infinitely revenge, always be a unit on board for cheap MP, and also have ridiculous stats. So shoutouts to Gung Ho and TEPPEN for making this nerf. Next up we have Conspirator Speech. This is a 1 MP, give a unit death, sacrifice 2 health. On memory 2, it sacrificed 4 health instead. So this card, a lot of players don't know how to use it. Actually, this card is used on your opponent's units, and if they still own that unit on death, they lose 4 of their health, essentially. So the nerf now is where it's basically half. at base it only sacrificed 1 life, and then on memory 2 it sacrificed 2 life instead. This card was very powerful. It would be played in Xinku, and if you had 3 copies of this card, that's essentially 12 damage. And then if you had agents, that's 7. So that's 19 of your opponent's health in 4 cards. So that's why there's the balance change of agents we saw earlier, and then the conspirator speeches now. I don't think that this card is potent anymore, so we'll probably be throwing this card away. It's not that good anymore. There's not a whole lot of value in it. Continuing. Black Crown's Madness. This card is essentially just Black Lotus. A card that you can use to just gain free MP, free resources. It is a 1 MP action, sacrifice 3 health, remove 3 cards from your deck from the game, gain plus 2 MP after, the new change. It is a 1 MP action, sacrifice 6 life, remove 5 cards from your deck, and only gain 1 MP. So the change now is that you really only break even. Before you would gain 2 MP for using it, but now you only gain 1, so you're breaking even. The cost is even higher now because you have to sacrifice 6 health and you have to remove 5 cards from your deck. That's quite a bit in TEPPEN. I will say that the life in TEPPEN is very scarce, and then also how many cards are in your deck is very scarce as well. So this card, the only way I see it being played is with Nergigante. Other than that, not much play elsewhere. Bloodbath Frenzy. This card was definitely as ridiculous as its predecessor, Reckless Charge. And it is a 3 MP action, sacrifice 2 health, gives a friendly unit +1/+2, memory 2, give that unit an additional +1/+1 and spillover, memory 4, make it perform an instant attack. It is now changed to where you sacrifice 2 health, give a friendly unit +1/+3 and spillover, so you don't have the memory condition on that anymore. And then on memory 10, if you get there, you will get a instant attack. So I think that the new change is well worth it because you can still abuse this card with combo units. With the spillover, you already get the buff, so you don't have to fulfill the memory condition, but in late game you can still make the card do an instant attack. So this is definitely a good balance. I think that this card is definitely playable. You'll use it in situations where you have cards like Super Tyrant that have agility in combo, because spillover will just clear a whole board. I'll definitely keep playing this card. I think that Shara Senku, the current reanimate build for it, can definitely get into that 10 MP no problem. 10 memory. Last but not least, we have Betrayal. This card is a 6 MP action, destroys an enemy unit with an MP cost of 6 or less, sends all copies of that unit from our opponent's deck to their graveyard. It is now changed to where you still destroy that unit, but instead of destroying, you remove all copies from the opponent's deck and graveyard. This is a direct counter to reanimate decks. So this is giving Black Elemental a way to deal with Living Death. Living Death is a card that brings all units from the discard pile back onto the field. So having Betrayal take away like Super Tyrant or Tyrant itself means that those cards will now be removed from the game and that Living Death won't be able to abuse it. In purple you have the board lock card Ceasefire. In green you have Natural Cycle to counter Living Death, and now black has Betrayal. Red still only knows how to deal damage, so they won't have any ways to deal with Living Death, but it shows that they are looking at Living Death, they know it's a problem, and they're trying to give every color a way to deal with it. And I think that that's pretty cool. I really want to know what the players' thoughts are, so if you could please comment. I will be checking the comments every day. Don't forget that once this balance change hits, you are able to refund and reap all of these cards for full amount of souls. So for example, an epic card will net you 800 souls, the exact value of what it costs to create in the first place. So it's pretty good souls for the players. If you played any of these cards in your decks, you can reap them and create new decks. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think that these balance changes were 100% necessary for the meta. How do you think that they affect the current meta? If you think that we'll see new decks coming out next month, or if we'll see any change at all. Just let me know. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're making new videos every week. And thank you. Have a good one.